Chapter 22 Chapter Summary in which I bang out 5.5k words worth of fluff and sin. Chapter notes Drunk Bully aka Pansy Me wrote the mushy stuff in this chapter about a week ago and I just now managed to edit it so it's readable. Also sin. And as always, thanks to Mirthalia for being my muse, beta, editor, all-around caregiver. Enjoy kiddos. See the end of the chapter for more notes. When he found her, she was lying down on her back, elbow draped across her mask as she lounged atop the upper deck of their city's famously lit tower. He grasped to the cool metal railing a few feet above, perching on the rung as he regarded the speckled heroine. Relaxed as she was, Adrian had a brief moment of panic, but his fears were put to rest at the sight of the steady rise and fall of her chest. Ladybug's breath came easy, relaxed as she let the cool night air fill her nostrils, then whoosh back out silently. Despite the fact that the moon was little more than a sliver, she was perfectly illuminated, red costume bathed in the light of the city she so valiantly protected. It was almost as if Paris was cradling her, wrapping her form tightly against itself as if to absorb her completely. Into the groves of the twining tower. Into the inky shadow of the sidewalk leagues below. Into the very place itself, until the heroine became indistinguishable from her playground. Ladybug was the undisputed soul of Paris, the steady heartbeat that kept the metropolis singing. She was only divided from the city in a corporal sense, and in these moments when she could allow herself to merge with the rhythm around her, perhaps not even that. She seemed content and in tune, and so incredibly beautiful for it that he felt like an intruder on something much bigger and greater than him. In fact, Adrian was about to turn tail, to leave her to revel in her precious moment alone with her city, under her sky, when Ladybug's voice rang out, faint but powerful. "I hope you aren't planning on leaving without even saying hello." She spoke without moving anything but her lips as they curved around the words. Chat gave a wistful smile, dropping gently onto the deck a few feet from where she lay. "What are you doing out here, my lady?" he crooned softly, taking a few careful steps towards her. "I just really needed the air," Ladybug breathed, feet shifting slightly. "Today was kind of a long day for me, and I thought some solitude might do me some good." "You and me both," Adrian thought, willing the memories of today's shoot away with a huff. "In that case, I apologize for crashing your me time." Adrian stooped down, sweeping her bangs aside to press a kiss against her forehead. He smiled at her absent sigh before making a move to stand back up. "By all means, go back to enjoying your solitude. Chat." Ladybug threw the arm, not covering her eyes out blindly as she groped towards the sound of his voice. "Stay, please. If that's what my lady wishes," Adrian replied simply, lying down beside her with ankles crossed and hands tucked behind his head as he wiggled in close. Ladybug immediately sought out his warmth, rolling onto her side to burrow her face into the corner of his chest. "I missed you," she mumbled into the dark material, wrapping an arm around his torso as she pulled her knees up between them. The words lit a pleasant heat under Adrian's skin, less passion and more appreciation as he felt a smile tug at his mouth. "We saw each other yesterday," he gently reminded her, tilting his chin down to catch her now uncovered eyes with his own. "Doesn't matter, still missed you." "Well then I missed you too, bugaboo," Adrian laughed, twining their hands together atop his chest with a content sigh. Ladybug and Chat Noir had always been an extremely physical duo. They had learned early on in their partnership that in order to pull off the feats they needed to, there was really no option for personal space. Whether it be Chat hooking an arm around Ladybug's waist to yank her out of danger, Ladybug draping a leg over Chat's as they ascended atop his staff, or any of the dozens of other small touches they had become accustomed to, the crime fighters had grown innately in tune to the feel of each other. And now that they were something more than just partners, that almost absent-minded tendency to always be touching had grown into a new beast entirely. Anything from the simple act of holding hands, all the way up to their most heated encounters had become something akin to a drug for Adrian. Don't get him wrong, the recently not-so-dry humping was great. But he also received a similar, yet oh-so-different thrill from the casual brushes and loving embraces that only came when there were no Akuma around to eat up their miraculous timers. It was in these moments, with her curled beside him, the whispered pleas for him to stay, and be worming their way under his skin in the most divine way possible, that Adrian liked to think on what they could be. What he wanted them to be. He decided to try again. "Ladybug, will you go on a date with me?" Beside him, her chest rumbled with soft laughter, Ladybug moving so her chin was propped up on his collarbone before looking down with a crooked smile. "What do you call this?" she asked, gesturing to their prone forms. "No, I mean a real date," Adrian amended, "like in the daytime. At a restaurant or cinema or something." Somehow I don't think the press would ignore the sight of Ladybug and Chat Noir out on a date. "Who said anything about Ladybug and Chat Noir?" he said softly, insistently. Here her grin faltered, yet Adrian tightly clung to his thread of hope. I just need to get her to believe this is a good idea. Chat, please, my lady, just hear me out. His heart was thrumming loudly, but Adrian thought past it, propping himself up on his elbows to fully capture her fluttering gaze. We could do it. I wouldn't tell anyone and we wouldn't have to hide from each other anymore. Now he slid up into a fully sitting position, pulling her alongside him as he grasped at her biceps. Both of their eyes pleaded with each other, but for entirely different reasons. Adrian went on, his voice a prayer. You can trust me, Ladybug. I love you too much to ever let you get hurt. There was a silence, but not a no, and if Adrian was breathing in that moment he sure as hell couldn't tell you. Ladybug looked in a word thoughtful, as if there were two sides of her brain going to battle inside her skull. She bothered her lips, parting them as if to speak before snapping them tightly together. He didn't push. A car honked, the wind shifted, and Chat waited for the answer he couldn't help but hope was coming. Ladybug paused, taking a breath as she carefully drew her words together. I'm not saying no, Adrian wanted to sing. But I can't say yes right now, she finished, furrowing her brows as if that wasn't the answer she meant to express. Ladybug read the confusion in his face, giving an exhale as she tried to better explain. Listen, Chat, I'm not the same when I'm not Ladybug. This suit, my miraculous, it changes me. It makes me better, and more likable. A totally different person from who I normally am. Adrian shook his head. Whoever you are as a person doesn't just disappear when you become Ladybug, and I refuse to believe the girl under the costume is any less incredible than the girl sitting before me. So what if you act different? That doesn't make you different. And that doesn't make any sense, Ladybug shot back, rubbing at her temples. Adrian sighed, crossing his legs before pulling her into his lap as he tried to find the right words. He could feel the steady beat of her heart as her back leaned into his chest, and the comforting rhythm seemed to steady him. A change of clothes doesn't change your identity, but it can change what parts of yourself you show to the world, he began slowly, propping his chin on Ladybug's head. When I'm not Chad Noir, I'm expected to act a certain way. My civilian self, he's clean, and put together. He's responsible, obedient, and maybe even a bit soft-spoken at times. It's hard to think of you as any of those things, Ladybug interjected softly, wonder and doubt threaded through her words as they rose from her mouth. Chad laughed humorlessly. Yeah, sometimes I don't really believe it myself. Adrian paused, ruminating on the truth of that statement before soldiering on. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's not me. It's a part of me, sure, but only about as much as Chad Noir is. People don't just have to be one thing, Ladybug. And sometimes people don't have to be just one person. I'm not just a model, citizen, he rushed to add, but I'm not just your cocky, cat-eared boyfriend either. She gave a small laugh, leaning her head back to look at him thoughtfully. And I want so badly to be both of them for once. His voice grew quiet in the night. I want so badly to be my whole self around someone besides my Kwame. Not just a superhero or a civilian, but me. And I want you to be able to do the same. I want to know every side of you, Ladybug, whether you think you're worthy of it or not. His girlfriend stilled beneath him, her voice hardly a whisper when at last she spoke. And what happens when the girl on the other side of the mask isn't the same girl you say you love? What happens then? Ladybug swiveled again, perking up an eyebrow at him as Adrian could only look on with disbelief. Well, that's when I learned to love her as well, he said, meeting her dubious expression with an honest smile. And if you don't, I will. How can you be so sure? How can you be so unsure? Because I know the girl under the suit quite well, Ladybug said with an incredulous shake of her head. And I'm not certain you like her as much as you like Ladybug. Well, maybe you should let me decide that for myself, Chat replied, low and honest. For once, she didn't seem to have a response, and Adrian couldn't help but hope his words had gotten through somehow. You didn't say yes, but you didn't say no either. He plotted his next move carefully, leaning down to rest his chin on her shoulder. So what do you say we start slow? I don't follow, Ladybug said tentatively. We don't have to reveal our identities outright, but that doesn't mean we can't learn more about each other. Why do I feel like this is leading to, which is why I propose round 2 of the question game. That's your plan to unmask me? She asked with an unbelieving snort, prompting Chad to shake his head with a grin. I don't plan on unmasking you, I just want to get to know the girl I'm dating. Is that too much to ask for? I guess not, Ladybug conceded with what he hoped was a content sigh. But the veto rule still stands and I get to ask the first question. You drive a hard bargain, my lady, but I accept your terms. Adrian grinned as the girl crawled out of his lap to sit cross-legged before him. Ladybug scooted forward until their knees were touching, tilting her head as she studied him intently. Like what you see, he couldn't help but tease, watching the way her gaze lingered on his mouth before popping back up with interest. I do, Ladybug drawled out. Which is why I've gotta ask, what brand of lipstick do you have on? Adrian's brow furrowed, then shot back up as he brought 2 fingers up to swipe at his bottom lip. Goddammit, he thought, spotting the streak of bright orange pigment across his glove. This isn't mine. He tried. Her eyes narrowed. Not that it's someone else's. I just mean I don't usually make a habit of wearing makeup. This was a special circumstance. It was half-truth. Adrian did, in fact, make a habit of wearing makeup, but it was usually just subtle applications to help him show up in print. Today's shot, however, was a bit more editorial, a campaign filled with black clothes and pops of autumn color in the form of brightly tinted lipstick. Of course he had no problem donning the coral cosmetics while on set, but explaining its presence to his giggling girlfriend was another matter entirely. Well, I'm a firm believer in the fact makeup is genderless, Ladybug said resolutely, propping her chin up on one fist. Besides, it's a good color for you. Chat gave a sigh of relief, leaning forwards with a grin. Want to see if it's a good color on you as well? He didn't give her a chance to answer before he was patterning her face with tangerine kisses. Are you kidding me? She squealed, trying half-heartedly to ward off his frontal assault. Orange tones on Asian skin. What a nightmare. That stopped him short. Asian skin. He let the question dangle, excited to watch as Ladybug scooped it up. I'm half Chinese, she supplied with a nod, and Adrian lovingly scratched it in his ever-expanding mental diary of Ladybug facts. Right under love's sweets but just above Virgo. And I do consider that to be your first question. Thus the game ensued. Suffice it to say Adrian was floating. With every new bit of information that sprung from his lady's mouth, he continued to construct his upstairs picture of her. Even the smallest of facts sent a jolt straight to his heart, and he eagerly devoured every little tidbit. She was in the same grade as he was. Her favorite scent was lavender. She had a pet fish. Of course the information she gave never quite grew personal enough to in any way reveal her identity, but it did allow a window, one that Adrian eagerly glanced through to catch glimpses of her civilian self. Ladybug liked pop music. She loathed calculus. Her bedroom was painted pink. He, in turn, answered all of her questions honestly, if briefly. He was an only child. His favorite soda was cherry Coke. He did not, in fact, sleep in a dumpster. For nearly a half hour the two went at it, volleying questions back and forth between them in a comfortable dance of the tongues that for the first time in quite a while stayed rooted within their owners' mouths. The camaraderie was warm and the silences comfortably brief as the two slowly wound down together. In fact, Marinette was almost shocked when her miraculous gave its first chime, having almost forgotten she was her alter ego amidst their downright friendly banter. She and Chat both heaved a sigh at the sound, the latter twitching his mouth up at her in a pout. Somehow the two had shifted so that Ladybug was in a sitting position, her back leaning against the sturdy beams of the tower as her fingers twined in the blonde hair beneath her. Meanwhile Chat had managed to worm his head into her lap, green eyes blinking slowly up at her with contentment as Ladybug ran her nails across his scalp. Well, it seems like the game is over for now, my lady, the young man said with a sigh, reluctantly heaving himself up into a sitting position. As much as I hate to admit it. Wait a bit, Marinette began, racking her brain for ways to stretch out their time together. It was irresponsible she knew, and probably a bit contradictory seeing as though she was the one who insisted their identities remain their own, but she couldn't help but want to draw him back to her. His warmth, his attention, his trademark curiosity, it dug at a deeply emotional part of her. And it was probably that desire to keep him here if only in thought alone that led Marinette to set her half-hatched plan in motion. Commandment number 6, build the anticipation. Marinette tried to arrange her face into some semblance of calm, a veritable feat considering the increasing tempo of her pulse. Text me when you get home, all right, she said, climbing to her feet as she extended a hand down for him to do the same. Just so I know you made it safely. Chat rose up next to her, shifting slightly as her other hand reached out to twine their grasps together in the space between them. How sweet of you to think about my well-being, my lady. I promise I'll let you know if I don't fall off a roof on my way home. She knew he was being a smart-ass but she let him kiss her anyway, the two pressing together for a sweet if brief embrace before the alley cat went leaping his way down the tower. Only when he was out of sight did Marinette begin her descent, diving down with ease to swing her way back towards the bakery. Her transformation timed out just as she reached her balcony, prompting her to duck under the awning as her magic broke away in a bright flash. Sorry Tiki, Marinette whispered, gathering the exhausted Kwame up as she slid down into her room. She felt guilty at how much time she had spent as Ladybug as of late, knowing the strain it put on her friend, but unfortunately the only way she could see her boyfriend was when she was in costume, meaning the Kwame had been getting one hell of a workout. I'll sleep now. Tiki trailed off, landing weakly on the pillows as she immediately drifted into a well-deserved slumber. Marinette bent to press a kiss against her tiny head before making her way down to the main floor of her room, scooping up her phone in preparation. It was Thursday night. Both her parents and her Kwame were asleep. And she was going to sext her boyfriend. As painfully awkward as Tuesday's lesson had been, she'd never be able to look Adrian in the eye again. Marinette was still titillated by the idea of trying a few things out on Chat Noir. See, with his birthday gift to her, he had effectively seized the upper hand in their little game of cat and mouse, yet she didn't plan on letting him stay at the top of the mountain for long. And while most people would call their behavior competitive or a mockery of what a loving relationship should be, Marinette found she liked the challenge, the delicate power struggle that shifted at each not-so-subtle move. He gave her lingerie, so she was going to give him the conversation of his life. Of course she couldn't call him just yet. Rule number 9, know when to switch, was still in effect and working in tandem with rule number 7, work your way up. But Marinette was confident enough in her teachings to believe she just might be able to pull this off. Obviously it helped that there was no way to stutter via text, and the fact Chat was so easy to please didn't hurt her chances either, but as she made her way to the bathroom, phone in hand, she couldn't help the nervous excitement that mingled with just a bit of lust deep down in her stomach. She had just turned the hot water knob to full blast, crouching to rifle through her under the sink stash of bath bombs when she heard her phone ding, signaling the game had begun. Marinette forced herself not to rush over, instead picking up a pink and purple orb caked with glitter before hoisting it over the edge of the tub to plop into the filling basin with a fizzle. In record time the candle stubs were lit and her clothes were chuffed, leaving only a single task at hand. Operation Break Chat Noir. Marinette recovered her phone, ignoring the new message icon before switching over to her saved photos. She quickly scanned one of the dozens of screenshots Aaliyah had sent her, a little parting gift just for her after Tuesday's fiasco, intently studying the conversation flow as she formulated her approach. With a deep breath and the sting of warm water, the teen slid down into the tub, acclimating to the temperature as she turned her attention back to the thread titled CN. Here we go, don't fuck it up Marinette, your text, as promised my lady, I'm assuming you made it home safe as well. I did, thanks for checking and thanks for keeping me company tonight. 3 Marinette quickly tapped over to her camera app, running through Aaliyah's instructions one more time as she lined up her shot with nervous hands. 2 inches above the knee and all the way down to the toe, taken from a high angle with warm lighting. Let the bubbles settle and for the love of God make sure to place your feet covering the overflow disc. I learned the hard way that metal fixtures can be incredibly reflective. Always my pleasure to spend some time with you. 3 long, slender legs poked out from the frothing water, their milky paleness offset by the purplish hue of the bubbles that swirled around the appendages. Marinette took a few shots just to be safe, scrolling through until she found the best one before deleting the others. Now to wait for my opening, she had to play this just right. I'm glad to hear it, so are you tired yet? Build the appeal, don't jump the gun, oh Perlice this cat can stay up all night, and there was her opening. Marinette forced herself to wait a full minute before responding, trying to let the relaxing warmth of her beloved tub calm her jumpy nerves. And when she felt the pause was appropriate for what she was trying to play, her next message struck. OMG, I almost just broke my phone huh? How you do you manage that? I nearly just dropped it in the tub with me. Aaliyah had called it the storm drain maneuver, a guaranteed way to ease even the most novice of sexters into a mind-blowing intro session. Marinette decided it was her best bet when it came to starting slow, and the fact she also got to take a bath was just icing on the cake. The trap was set, now she just had to wait for him to, "Are you texting me while taking a bath?" Hook, line, and sinker, Marinette thought with a triumphant thrill, rolling her shoulder as she carefully followed the script Aaliyah had so graciously lent her. Well, technically it's a bubble bath, or texting me, while taking a bubble bath, what can I say, I'm a multitasker. A bubble bath, yes Chat, a bath with bubbles and sparkles in it, do you need proof or something? Well now that you mention it, ask and you shall receive. Marinette took in a gulp of air, attaching the picture before she could chicken out. As the image of her soapy legs filled the conversation window, Chat's typing symbol cut off abruptly, pausing as he no doubt processed what she had just sent. This proof enough for you kitty cat? Shit, you actually did it, you did mean to send that picture to me, didn't you? Well, considering I took it for you, fuck, what do you think? Why don't you tilt that camera back a bit farther and I'll let you know. Despite the fact her bath water had cooled considerably since the beginning of their little exchange, Marinette still felt feverish at his words. Chat was good, she'd give him that. But if he still felt in control enough to act cocky, she obviously wasn't laying it on as thick as she could be. She grinned as a cheeky idea surfaced, shifting so that her arms were crossed as they propped up onto the edge of the basin. Laying on her stomach as the bubbly froth sloshed around in response to her sudden movement, Marinette lined up a shot of her soaked forearms, burying her head between them as her loose hair swept across bared shoulders. She snapped the picture, quickly running through her mental gospel checklist to confirm nothing about it would reveal anything she didn't want it to. It passed inspection, soon swooping up to join its predecessor in the conversation window. Is this what you had in mind? Eat your heart out, Chad Noir, cute, but lower if you please, Marinette grinned. He was getting bothered, she could tell. Her next picture was little more than her big toe popping out from beneath the water. Goad me on, will you? We'll see who comes out on top, Princess, chat. 3. Have I ever told you how much of an incredible fucking tease you are? Am I too much for you to handle, chat on? Oh, I think I can handle you just fine, my lady, would you not agree? Marinette shifted pleasantly in the tub, ignoring the urge to triple task as her previously dormant arousal flared back up. Finish him off before you finish yourself off, Mari, HHHMMMM. I still think I prefer the way I handle myself. It took Chad a whole 3 minutes to formulate a response. Those 3 little dots that pulsed on and off on his end only seemed to cement her victory, Marinette leaning back with a smug grin as she let lust and triumph fester in the pit of her stomach. Let's see him top that. See, when you say things like that, you make it so fucking hard for me to know if you're teasing or being serious. Oh, he didn't just. Has it crossed your mind that perhaps I could be seriously teasing you? It has, but I know my lady wouldn't dare. And what makes you so sure? Because if you were, it'd be forced to send you this in retribution. 3. This time Marinette almost dropped her phone in the tub for real, eyes widening as his next message filled the frame. Fuck, the guy in the photo was leaning back against a pile of gray pillows, dressed in a tight, white tank top that rode up to reveal an enticing slice of tanned stomach as he preened in the frame. He was only visible from the bottom of his nose down to the very edge of his hip bone, hoisting the camera above him with one hand while the other gripped the back of his neck. He looked like a goddamn model, body just so perfectly curved and limbs placed just so. In fact, the only thing that even remotely allowed Marinette to believe it was indeed a picture of Chad Noir was the Cheshire grin stretched across the teen's face, the look too mischievous to belong anywhere besides on her partner. Boy, his costume really doesn't exaggerate, she thought breathlessly, ogling the broadness of his bare shoulders, appreciating the lean muscles flexing atop his curved bicep and finally glancing her way down his torso to let her eyes trace the subtle V-cut into the skin of his lower abdomen. Marinette felt her insides squirm at the sight, and suddenly her bath felt just a smidgen too hot when paired with the heat racing up her neck. Stupid sexy boyfriend, stupid sexy picture, fucking, what's wrong, my lady? You can dish it out but you can't take it. Gah. When had her hand slipped under the water? Marinette gave a soft curse, ripping her gaze from her phone just long enough push herself up out of the tub and wind a towel around her dripping form. Her phone said it had been nearly 5 minutes since Chat sent the picture, and she could just picture how smug the little asshole must be at her delayed reaction. She bit her lip, trying to trust her own judgment now that she'd run out of script to follow, but this was unmarked territory, and she was trekking it equipped only with her wits and whatever knowledge she'd managed to glean from Aaliyah's gospel. Gathering her words carefully, she made her move, sending a quick message before exiting the bathroom. Whoopsies, guess I took a bit too long to finish my bath. Damn wobbly legs, thank you for the picture BTW, yes, good Marinette, she thought to herself, flushing at her forwardness as she climbed up into her room. Still wrapped up in her towel, the teen padded over to the armoire, taking a few calming breaths as she returned her attention back to Operation Break. Chad Noir, I'm guessing you had a good time in the tub then. Oh yeah, tons of fun. But now I've got to get ready for bed. You tired already, princess? Wonder what made you so worn out all of a sudden. He could wonder all he wanted, but damn if she didn't have plans. Marinette rifled through her bottom drawer, not bothering to reply to Chat's insinuation. Let him stew, serves him right. She pulled out that infamous pair of lingerie, grinning wickedly in anticipation as she slid it up her soak-reddened legs to settle snug around her hips. Not a clue, but boy am I ready to slip into my pajamas. 3 Hey now, you told me you slept naked. Patience, boy, she thought with a shiver, looking up into her loft to check if Tiki was still asleep. Tiny snores echoed down through the space, confirming the Kwame was out like a light, and Marinette took that as her sign to go ahead with her plan. Well, usually I do, but tonight I'm going to make an exception. You see, this guy the first no bought me quite the lovely birthday gift, Ladybug, and since it feels just so nice pressed against my body, I thought why not wear it to bed. Sitting her phone down on the vanity, Marinette hummed quietly as she dabbed concealer here and there, effectively erasing discerning marks across her upper body. Commandment number 2, no scars, moles, or tats. In the low light, her reflection looked almost foreign. The young woman in the mirror had her eyes, her hair, her cheeks and chin and nose, but it wasn't truly Marinette. This woman was powerful, confident to a fault as she looked unflinchingly forward at her lingerie-clad self with a satisfied smile. Marinette was never one to consider herself as Ladybug out of costume before, but now she felt every inch the superheroine. One hand snaked up to rake through her damp hair, the other yanking up the plunging front of her bra so her breasts sat even higher on her chest. The teen gave herself another once-over before returning her attention back to her phone. "Are you sure you'll be able to sleep like that, my lady?" Marinette bit her lip, walking over to where her chaise sat before settling atop its tufted surface. Nobody said anything about sleeping, chat. Besides, there are much more interesting thing to be done in bed, that is if you aren't tired yet. His response was immediate. "Oh, I'm feeling quite energetic." Marinette felt a smile bloom across her face, comfortable on her lips as she leaned back into the soft cushioning beneath her. "Well, in that case, it's playtime. Kitty Cat 3 chapter and notes. Fun fact, everything in the second half of this chapter was written based off my personal experience. Always cover your fixtures, kids, always cover your fixtures. Fan art here, folks. http://bullysquadess.tumblr.com/post/1389030903002/sarakata bullysquadess gasil just jump http://bullysquadess.tumblr.com/post/1388018748337/translucent sprinkles. Oh boy, do I love to sin.